Hello, everyone. Hi, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Great. Life's good.
Yeah, how the weather in your city, in your part of the U.S. in Florida?
Yeah. Florida's always got fairly nice weather.
Yeah, I
So it's
know,
great.
sunny beaches.
Sunny beaches, and it just rains every day at this time of year. It rains every day around like
Ah,
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. I don't know the exact time, but like every day we get a little bit of rain, but every morning it's sunny.
sunny. That is nice. It's a little bit cloudy today in Eindhoven in the Netherlands, but it's good just because we had a few weeks of extreme heat here, so it's kind of good. Okay, welcome everyone to our 10th episode of our podcast, SERPs of the Week, where we discuss what goes into ranking high for a specific search term. And I'm your host, Alex, and let me introduce you to our today's podcast guest, Kevin Rowe. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us today.
Thank you. It was great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we've just had a chat with Kevin about his current set of businesses, right? And one of his is PureLink, which is an enterprise link building solution and a product-focused SEO company developing industry-leading programs for SEO and link building. How long have you been doing link building, Kevin?
Funny. I built my first link probably. I started link building, but built my first links 2 years after I started link building, and that was around
Oh, why?
2013,
Okay, could you please kind of,
11.
open kind of explain why did it happen only after 2 years once you started building links?
I was working when I first got started in SEO, 2009, around 2009, I think. I was working for an agency, and we did a lot of SEO. It was B2B, B2B manufacturing, so a very hard niche for
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
And we were experimenting with a couple of softwares. So AWR Cloud, I remember that's the first link building tool I used was AWR Cloud, or AWR, the old desktop versions of it that you only do on the PC.
Oh.
So we were trying to learn campaigns, but what happened was, I think I wasn't really doing link building fully focused. So I had to manage accounts, I had to develop strategy and all that. So you would start a link building campaign. And this is one of the big things I learned. And if you stop, that doesn't work. You have to keep it going on an ongoing basis. And consistency is what leads to it. So the biggest problem was starting a small campaign or not having the right type of content was a big one. Back then, everyone did things that were a little more, you could just pay for any type of link and you would rank almost. But we used to try to do it naturally, like through broken link building. So it was a learning experience. I think a lot of it was early days. It took me 2 years to land my first link.
Yeah, I understand. I think I built my first link around maybe 5-6 years ago. I mean, like on purpose for sure, besides, kind of acquiring them organically just because you contribute somewhere. But, the purpose of this was not really, just getting links. It was the purpose of contributing somewhere, right? So there are a bit, different stories. But I think like 5-6 years ago, right, I did some link building on purpose, I would say.
What did you think of it?
Oh, I think I felt in love just because, for me, the most interesting, the most exciting part, right, is the one where you basically run negotiations with people, right? So where you kind of exchange opinions, right, and you try to defeat, right, your perspective. And I think if you're really good in negotiations, right, and I think the basic rules actually they apply literally to any negotiation. Then you have to be kind of back up everything with some data, right, and show that you have enough expertise to talk about this, and being very detailed when it comes to explanations, right? And in that way you can kind of persuade, right, your opponent that you genuinely care about this conversation. And that is very much it. And sometimes you can even kind of, negotiate, with people that you think that is not going to happen at all. But then you kind of, sometimes you kind of need to sit down, think about this one more time, right? Step back, try it in a different way, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
100%. Link building, there's so many, there are an endless number of strategies, I like to say, in link building. I think a lot of people have narrowed it down to like, a few they like, or a few that works for the way their company works, or their niche, or their industry, and then how they think, or their skill set. But there's so many different options for link building. I think I've tried almost everything. Like I've attempted to. I remember doing bulk based comment link building when it was a thing. I mean, it's still kind of a thing, but not really. It doesn't. I know some people still kind of do it in a weird way, but it's link building's endless number of things you can test. I think that's one of the biggest problems why there's so much kind of in the SEO industry, that disagreement in the SEO industry about what's a good link, what's a bad link. There's no consistency in what we identify as good and bad.
Yes, that is true. I think, when it comes to link building, also there are a lot of kind of misunderstanding, I would say, or kind of a lot of misconceptions around link building in terms of, it's not really about it's good or bad, right? Just about, a lot of people kind of tell that, right, you don't really need to build links at all, just because you have to focus on page SEO, right? And that is actually the way, I would say, to outrank the competition, something like that. But I think in my understanding, right, the problem here is not really about what's really more important off page or on page SEO, right? So it's not really about giving less or more priority to those two things. They are completely different, I would say. But without if you just build links and not going to invest in the on-page SEO, right, then it's not going to happen, and vice versa, right? So it's not going to happen if you are going to basically only invest in links and not going to actually build solid content, solid foundation of the right pages and so on, right? Optimize them and so on and so forth, right?
I think also in e-commerce, it's funny, e-commerce, some affiliate, and anything where it's like local directories or local sites or marketplaces or things like that, they're not into the content production. I've noticed they want links. They want and gaming, gambling as well. Like some of them are just trying to rank their money pages and just link building to money pages. It's still a thing. It's still, people are aggressively doing it. To me, it's surprising. Like this informational content first link building approach that you're talking about, I think is 100% the way to go. 100%.
Yeah. I think the main problem for me when it comes to working with commercial pages, right, besides the challenges that are connected with just kind of pitching them, acquiring links, right, if we put all of those things aside, it's just certain limitations, right, in terms of the future of those pages, just because they can only rank by certain keywords, right? So that their future, their potential is very limited. So that is the main problem for me, right? So I would always prefer to work with those pages that kind of, that give more opportunities, right, in terms of ranking by various keywords, right? Rather than, just focusing on 2-3 keywords and basically either you rank right well for those keywords or not, which is also kind of limiting, right, the value of links as well, what I think.
100%.
In my understanding. By the way, since today, right, we discuss cybersecurity, the keyword that is related to cybersecurity, right? Do you have any clients in this niche, right? So do you work with this niche quite closely?
Yeah, so we've done a lot. We've worked with VMware. I've worked with Carbon Black.
Oh, that is interesting. I used to work for one of their biggest resellers, like 12, 15 years ago. I think 15 years ago. That was my very first work in the digital marketing sphere. That's where I learned about Salesforce.
Really?
Yeah, and different, and in different channels. So basically, I was kind of doing some analytics reporting in Salesforce, and that's where I learned that we have a SEO channel, we have advertising, we have kind of events and so on. So I was kind of basically working with different campaigns, analyzing them, and providing some information to top managers and just marketers and so on.
Great.
So yeah, that is interesting, right? Okay, circling back to cybersecurity niche, right? So, and well, what is your, when it comes to link building, right? When it comes to ranking well in Google, what will be your biggest takeaway? How competitive this niche is?
For that keyword, in the cybersecurity space right now, I think that there is major competition, and everyone's spending a ton on SEO and link building now. It wasn't like that 5 years ago. It definitely wasn't like that 10 years ago. So I think the space is getting competitive. So the linkable content, the type of linkable content, and how strategic you are about what type of content you produce is becoming more important. So if you have 10 great links and they're all equally, Google identifies all those links as equally valuable and contextual and topical relevant as the other links, it will come down to content after that. So I think, I think the content's going to be like the type of linkable content, how strategic we are creating linkable assets is going to be critical for that. So it's super competitive. However, you do see a lot of sites that aren't the major players that are ranking in the search engines, right? So you don't have to be the highest authority. I mean, once you look into this in Ahrefs, and if you scroll down, you'll see the authority of some of the URLs right there. They are pretty authoritative, but if you look
I think built-in is actually a quite well-known tool, right? I used to use it some time ago, like 10 years ago. So they've been present on the market for quite some time.
Yep. You'll see some new ones. Yeah, absolutely. The top first results seems like they've been around for a while. They've been in the SERPs for a while.
Which is interesting. I see even financyahoo.com. I guess that is something like an affiliate project, right? Most probably.
I haven't looked on that. But let me look.
Yeah, I can open it as well.
Yeah, if you want to open it. I'm also looking on my screen.
No, it's just kind of some, very short text. I can share my screen actually. Just give me a second.
Sure. Is this in the US or is this?
Yeah, it is. So just 1 second, we can take a look. So yeah, here you go. Well, it's actually kind of, it's quite new. So I guess that is actually, I do think, by the way, with the recent Google update that we've seen so far, in terms of results, I noted that Google reprioritized a lot of SERPs based on how fresh the particular content is. And do you think that is the case? Why this page also appeared in Google SERPs around among the top ranking results?
I think there's freshness has something to do with it, but right now I think there's so much content being produced because if you think about how much content is being produced, across from, companies doing it themselves, agencies doing it, or whatever, the volume is so much higher right now than it ever has been before, and the quality is improving. So people are now using ChatGPT to help them create better outlines, understand structure, and what type of topics are out there. I actually did some analysis of, I can bring it up and show you, of the SERPs using ChatGPT. I can show you a process that,
very interesting. Definitely would love to take a look.
I'll share that. I have it up on my screen. But I think that freshness, when it comes to freshness, what's happening is Google's seeing so much stuff coming in and out of the SERPs right now that they're now starting to, their algorithms evolving in part because of that.
Yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
they're looking at all this content, and there's so much coming out, they're just ranking it. So much coming out that it actually seems like it should be in those SERPs, right? So people are creating those listicles, the how-tos, the case studies and all that stuff, and Google's loving it. that so many people are creating so much great content. So I think there's a component to the freshness, but
Yeah.
I think it's actually the volume is what's creating so much fluctuation. You know, if you look at Moz's weather report or SEMrush's version of that, you know, I think there has been a lot of fluctuation this year.
So it just Google basically constantly reconsidering the most competitive, I would say, or the ones I would say that the search terms that have some decent competition. So it's kind of basically they are not stable, right?
Yeah, I think yes, stability is certainly, I think, a good way to describe it. But I think it's the amount of high quality content now being produced, because we all have a model. It's not a complex model just to be helpful in your content anymore. You know, it's just knowing your topic. So I think it's just the volume of content being produced. Because, you know, years ago, you'd see the SERPs would kind of stay the same over a longer period of time. The biggest difference I'm noticing is the volume of high quality content. Everyone's blogging.
But you think, like, whenever I look at, and right now it's quite interesting, like if I look at the top results, right, and I see quite the same set of pages, I mean, like, let's say all of them, they are quite, kind of, the UX is good, right? When I open the page, you kind of can navigate through it quite easily. Then basically you see that it's kind of having enough words. Basically, it's kind of the structure is quite okay. But what I noticed is that they are all quite the same, right? So that is the problem as well. Because even though, right, we kind of, as marketers, right, we've learned how to produce quality content. I mean, like, let's say like long form and so on. The problem that we have kind of, and that is the problem of Google, that it's quite hard to differentiate those pages, right? It's hard to say this one is better than that one. Yeah, for sure, links right now, and also the value, right, of a particular domain, let's say the value of a particular brand plays a huge role there, right? But if you have quite the same, let's say 5 pages, right, I feel like sometimes Google fails, right, in terms of kind of identifying the ones that are better than the rest of the others or something like that, just because of those similarities, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had a client like this that has said to you, why is that site ranking over mine? Because my content is so much better. I've heard that so many times.
Yes, that is always kind of one of the biggest questions, right? That you get.
It's the most popular question. And I think you're right in part. Google, people are creating such similar content that's slightly different, that has a little bit of differentiation in the type of, it includes a few more statistics, or it'll include points that weren't currently covered, or a section that wasn't covered in the other types of content. And then Google all of a sudden will rank that because it is different. It provides unique value, but they look the freaking same overall. So
yeah,
Google,
from a reader standpoint, I would say they look the same, because this kind of small section doesn't change, much, right? So it doesn't really provide you a completely different perspective. But what kind of problem I face as a user right now, right? And that is the biggest problem that I see. That, I can't really find anything truly unique that will be sharing a completely different perspective. Just because of those similarities, right? Just because each and every marketer, whenever tries to produce a new copy, looks at the current search engine results. And that's what I advise my clients as well, right? And then they create kind of a structured copy based on what they see in search engine results.
I think a good, so I was searching for free diving for kids. So I wanted to get my daughter, she's 11. She just turned 11 yesterday.
Oh,
2 days ago.
congratulations.
Yeah, she's excited. It was her birthday month for some reason. Not a birthday day. It's not a birthday, it's a birth month. So she, spoiled. But like, when I Googled, I thought that was interesting, like the SERPs there, because Google will rank various more diverse information on certain types of keywords versus others. They'll keep it more homogenous, right? So they'll keep it very niche, very specific, and they're very similar answers with slight variations. Versus others, they will select themes and topics to provide a diverse range of information. So I think anything in safety, health, your money, your life, obviously. For sure, the free diving for kids is a your money, your life type scenario.
Yeah.
It's a unique one, but it is a your money, your life. So I think depending on the keyword, I'll show her this. Depending on the keyword being used, I think Google will select to diversify, and it's how I think it has to do with your money, your life type categoration and some sort of scale they have on whether it's your money, your life or not. I think it's a scale, not necessarily a category.
Yeah. I think, there are also sometimes I see interesting scenarios in some niches, like in the finance niche, for instance, right? Where actually, whenever the content is not so fresh, it's also, kind of affecting your money, right? And that's where Google is very proactive in terms of re-evaluating the pages, right? So I think obvious, right? And I don't really know whether you agree with me, Kevin, or not, but I think there are kind of, I would say, different scenarios, right, in terms of how search engine results are kind of re-evaluated, depends on some particular niches. Do you see it as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's some degree of I don't know if I'd say regulation, but 100% based on niche and categories. There's different types of things that would be acceptable. So link building in gaming, gambling, right? You'll see a lot of sites ranking that are just paying for links. 100%. You analyze their link profile, it's just paid links.
That's just kind of always horrible.
And it's some of it's working. Something. Well, it's not all working, but I'm sure some of it is. And so I think that there's definitely certain niches that, let's say, things where paid link building will work. And there's ones where it won't, where health, medical, a lot of times, like the old school method of paid link building, I don't think that works as much.
Yeah. And by the way, across a lot of B2C niches, I see that, very, I would say, questionable websites where people, kind of acquiring links, and those links are really working, right? So it also comes down, I think, to what kind of link building patterns marketers are using in a particular niche. So if it's kind of, and I always look at kind of, it's quite interesting, there is kind of some, I would say, pattern, right? That's how everyone is doing that. And if you kind of do it in the same way, then you're on a safe side, I would say.
I think that's some scenarios. I think there's other scenarios where you have to be different.
Yeah, for sure. That might give you a competitive advantage, for sure.
I think that's where it comes down to. But yeah, if you're similar to other types of sites. So for example, like with PureLink, we're working on that recycle SEO program we were talking about, where I'm just really trying to raise awareness of ocean plastic pollution in the SEO community. It's
I know it's a huge problem. I mentioned that I used to live on a salon line, and that is called Cyprus, right? And I saw a lot of plastic, right, in the ocean. It's not really an ocean, it's a sea there, right? Mediterranean Sea, but it's all connected to ocean, right? Because all seas, there sooner or later come into an ocean, right? And that's where the water comes from.
Yep, a lot of it comes from there, or a lot of problems come like in the ocean more so than lakes, I would see. Because, but so the point is that I'd love to talk more about actually the ocean plastic pollution problem, and we're trying to raise awareness in the SEO community about the issue with ocean plastic pollution. So I'd love to talk about that momentarily. But before that, I think the point I wanted to make with that is that we're going after links from sites that are completely irrelevant to SEO, for that. I'm looking for so I designed a process using a 3D printer that could 3D print 3D print plastic out of recycled ocean plastics, nylon fish nets, ocean bound fish nets. And so I'm actually finding I've gotten guest posting opportunities on 3D printing websites. So it's like, it doesn't fit the model at all, but, and I'm not trying to rank our site. I'm not ranking our site for anything. Or taking a completely different approach, but, those types of things are like links I would take, in that scenario. So I think there's certain scenarios where you want to be unique, create unique value, or do things differently that can help you outrank. But, it does seem like 90% of the time, just following the model that everyone else has does work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but sometimes it's quite challenging, right, to come up with those ideas just because you live in a particular world, right, where particular ideas, I would say, are appreciated. And that is the problem, right, that you either need to have some previous experience, which will be from a completely different, industry, right, from a completely different niche that you can kind of capitalize on, right, in this situation. But for me, like, I also, being honest, right, I challenge, it's a big challenge for me to come up with something new just because I'm very skeptical, because I've been kind of in the digital marketing niche for more than 12, 13 years, right? So I'm kind of becoming very skeptical about some things and some strategies just because I've already tried them, and not once, and I wasn't really impressed with the results. So I kind of going to actually most probably decline them, right? Even though the idea might be brilliant, right? But since I've been kind of trying this and not really getting much results, right, much traction out of it, I would actually prefer not to proceed, right, with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, what about you? Do you kind of do a lot of, let's say, experiments, maybe trying something new, or something completely different, I would say, when it comes to either link building or digital marketing?
So, so I created PureLink. PureLink in 2018, I launched it and really started scale 2019. And so I launched that off the back of productization. So I'm a big product guy. And I think that productization is important in digital marketing. Standardized processes, simplify and scale, right? And so, one of the things was not testing. So we were experimenting in a very niche group of things we would levers we could pull to experiment with, as opposed to trying different techniques and stuff. I'd say over the last, that lasted about 2 years before I even started to change and try new things. Like, we had a process, I had a database of sites, and that's what we used to go after it. Link building has changed since then. So now you're forced to experiment a little bit. But the reality is, like, I'm focused on earned link building a lot more now than I was in the past, meaning being a strategic advisor, helping people develop, like, link building companies can't necessarily get paid on it, which is interesting. It's like, there's not a business model to develop an earned link building program, which is interesting. So, like, that's something I've been experimenting with. Well, everyone else is going a different route in a way. So a lot of people are focused on link exchanges, or guest posts, potentially, guest posts of executives in the company, maybe even podcasting as a source. Resource-based link building, huge. Again, that's come back in full force too. But, my thing right now is how do we develop products around earned links in the marketplace, right? There's not enough out there, or because it's just too easy to pay for links and then get those links live, and then you have a deliverable for a client. Earned link building, or earned, you might not have links, you might fail. So right now, more so now over the last couple of years than ever before, linkable content and earning links is what I'm focused on experimenting with. We have some standard processes I've used, just like everybody. I just list out some of them. Techniques, but the earned link building and nailing that down is going to be, I think, critical. Like, what's the model? How should you be doing it? That's where we experiment the most.
Very interesting. When it comes to earned right link building, what will be your biggest advice, right?
Develop a pilot program. So I just gave a webinar with Search Engine Journal, and I talked about pilot programs. And then developing a design thinking process. You don't have to develop it; just use a design thinking process, which is a pilot program, coming up with ideas, testing small versions of those ideas, failing or succeeding, learning, and then doing that again. Right. So I think that's going to be you have to, if you're going to set up a program saying, I want to I want to earn a link, and my rocks or my goals or objectives for the quarter is to rank this page, but I want to test. You got to manage expectations of leadership, especially in larger companies, large enterprise companies. In the marketing departments, they have a model, they have goals they're accountable to in many cases. So you've really got to manage those expectations around the design thinking process and anything SEO or link building. So testing and then scaling up what you have. So then after you've selected the pilots that have worked, taking those proven concepts, and I have a template I like to use, the proven model list. So for that proven model, or selecting out those proven models, either you've proved them or you've found it from somebody else's example, and then they've proved the usage, but and then you tested it in your own design thinking process. I think where was I going with that? I guess that the timeline on testing that, moving from pilot to proof to scale. That's where it is. Pilot, proof, scale.
Yeah.
I believe that's the biggest advice I would give everyone. Don't just say, I want to build links. If I build a link and that page doesn't rank, then that success is wrong. Evaluation is another point I'd love to get into next. But first is testing and understanding expectations, and that it's going to be an iterative process. And then next is how you're evaluating success. That success is not just links to a page that you want to rank directly, right? It doesn't work like that as much as it used to, where you build a link to a page, that page ranks, you've won.
I understand.
So I think the iterative process is my biggest advice to anybody starting out on link building. If you're new to link building, if you're, or if you've been doing it for a while and you're just not successful, or you haven't scaled.
But I wonder about earned link building, right? If I understand everything correctly, that you basically create some pages, right, that other people want to link back to, right? So that is basically the process. But the main problem, right, that I have in my understanding, and that a lot of planners and people have, right? How can someone link back to something that he or she doesn't know? So how you kind of bridge this gap? Because okay, you created an outstanding page that really deserves links, right? But it has some limitations, right? Which is basically limited to the following factors, in my understanding, right? The overall brand awareness, right? So how many people know this brand? Because if Microsoft, right, launches, such page, that is one scenario, right? Because they have social media channels, right? They can send out newsletter. They have just visitors from the web and so on. But if you're right, if you are not really Microsoft, right, you're kind of medium-sized business, right, that has, 20,000 subscribers, then basically some organic traffic, let's say. But one more time, right, your chances are kind of limited, right, to the number that you have.
Yep. So Ahrefs actually did, if you've probably even seen these ads, Ahrefs did the Linktree case study. I don't know if you saw the Linktree SEO case study they did, where they analyzed Linktree using Ahrefs. It wasn't a real case study, kind of a case study, but not. And they were using Facebook retargeting ads. And they have built a huge link profile to that article. They do pretty well once they distribute it. So there has to be a distribution.
Yeah, well, that is my problem, right? Yeah, distribution is actually extremely important here, right? Because if you can't really put, right, this content in front of your audience, right, Because I think the main problem here, what's really happening is that, you somehow managed, right, to create this content, and you expect that people just will be linking back just because this page is awesome or whatever it is, right? And I think distribution, right, is one of the missing elements of of a lot of people that try to actually use this strategy.
Yeah, I think, well, so earning links, I think you don't want to ask for a link. I think that's where, like, if you look at the link spam guidelines, Google, even the old ones, before they updated last year, a lot of it was about the intent behind it. So I think if your intent is to share that content in an audience, it comes through. You're not necessarily trying to get a link back. You're trying to share it with people and make sure they're interested in it. And I think that's where it becomes earned link building. I like to, it's also changing the way we build lists. List building is changing forever in earned link building. Earned link building, list building is not like list building through either paid links or even broken link building, resource link building. It's not the same. Your lists are now, types of keywords, journalist keywords that you want to rank for, right? So that's a hot topic. Finding statistical keywords like, sports betting statistics 2023 or cybersecurity statistics for 2023, those types of things that journalists are searching for or bloggers are searching for in their citing. So like now we actually have to build lists of statistics and, content-based lists or keyword-based lists, because that's now the distribution. The distribution list isn't the email anymore. The distribution is sometimes becoming the SERPs. How do you get the content to rank fairly quickly? Authority Hackers did a fairly interesting case study. I don't quite agree with everything they've said on it, but they did an interesting case study where they did a statistic. They did a survey. It got statistic. It was actually a good survey, and they got it to rank for some sort of SEO statistics keywords. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then they started getting links once it ranked in position 1 or 2.
Yeah, that is true. We used to work with one guy. They basically what they did, and that is working very well if you are the first. So that is the thing, that whenever they basically built a few very good statistic pages on some social media related keywords like TikTok and so on, even like Twitter and Facebook, I think. And so basically they kind of built, and we were helping them to build links back to those pages specifically. And when they started to rank,
prime it. Once you get that primer going.
Yeah, and it kind of started to, and actually that is what I highly recommend to all clients. So that is the way to actually start getting links organically.
Yeah, well, these guys actually did what I agree with, do Google ads. So get a Google ad for that article. And then if it is truly better than the rest, you can get some links that way. So if doing some sponsored Google ads, push you up to the top for that statistical keyword first, then see if it does actually attract links normally that way. So I think that was a clever way to do it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, Mark Webster.
Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. I think there are so many different ways, right, to build links and to kind of, I would say in some ways, to facilitate, right, the growth of your backlink profile. Kevin, before saying bye-bye, what will be your, besides earned links, right, what will be your second most favorite strategy of building, of acquiring links?
Paying for them, 100%. I think paying for links is a good strategy. I know people don't want to say that. And there's some people that are proving that some paid links doesn't work anymore.
But it all comes down to what kind of sites, right? You're getting links from.
I mean, I think I'm okay with it. I think it's all right in certain scenarios, as long as you're not, being manipulative, lying, doing things like that. I think there's a legitimacy, and no one's really discussed it because paid link building has been a taboo. But when does paid link building become real, right? When is it actually just not actually paid link building? And I think there's a line. And so it is, you can sponsor a website and then use that sponsorship to build a relationship of which you can guest post on their website. They're more, that's a paid link in a way, but not really. It's not your intent, but as long as the intent is different. So I say paid link, but I know I just want to make a shocking statement, but the important part is, if you sponsor a site or you do you sponsor any sort of website and you build a relationship and they let you blog on there, or they're more likely to if you share content with them, they're more likely to share it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's using sponsorship to build a relationship. That's paid link building. But
yeah,
it's legitimate.
I agree. Yeah, there are different ways actually to basically to use, right?
I don't think
your marketing budget, right, in order to actually kind of start, right, the conversation, I would say, right?
Yeah, I think it doesn't violate Google's guidelines either. When you do certain types of paid link building like that, I don't know if we would call it paid link building or if they would call it paid link building, because it's not, but it's a variation of it. It's a form of paid link building. I just think it's a legitimate form.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kevin, for joining us today. It was a pure pleasure chatting with you, and I hope that you're going to join us sometime later as well as a guest. And thank you very much one more time for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Bye, Alex.
Bye.